Hey everybody, and welcome back! So, the Deep Rock Galactic devs have been showing off more of the new weapons, and we finally got a look at the gunner's Hurricane-guided rocket system. So, just like last episode, I'm going to be taking a look at the mods, overclocks, and some possible builds that I think would be good for this weapon. If you don't really know what I'm talking about right now, I'll leave a card to episode 1 right up at the top, just so you can catch up, because I don't want to repeat myself too much in this video. But one last thing before we begin, remember to leave a comment down below and tell me what you think about these builds, and what you think might be a good build. And while you're down there, go ahead and like this video and subscribe, because if you do, you will be invited to my birthday party. Alright, enough of that. Let's get to what we're all here for. For tier 1 of the mods, we've got Missile Round Belts. This gives you an increased ammo count, which could be pretty useful because it looks like this gun has the potential to burn through ammo really quickly. Next up is Pressurized Gas Cylinder. This gives you increased direct damage, great for a single target damage build. Then there's the Increased Blast Radius mod, which is a nice contrast to the previous one. This increases the radius of your missile's explosion, giving you a nice build up towards an AoE build. Then we've got tier 2 of the mods, which kicks off with Bigger Jet Engine. This makes your projectiles move and turn faster. This looks like it would come in handy for an aggressive build where you need your rockets to hit their targets faster. This is followed up by Anti-Tank Missiles, which increases the armor breaking. Another good possibility for a single target damage build, nice for shredding up Praetorians. We're quickly moving up to tier 3 with Nano Missiles. This increases the magazine size. A bigger magazine means more killing before you have to reload, so it seems like a useful mod to me. Tier 3 also offers us Improved Feed Mechanism. It gives you a faster rate of fire. It's pretty straightforward, but it's another mod that'll be great for if you want a quick response to a swarm. And we're on to tier 4 already, just sweeping right through these. Let's take a look at Shrapnel Load. This gives you bonus weak point damage, another very useful mod for single target damage. And just like tier 1, we have another mod here that serves as a great contrast to the previous one, Zip Fuel. This increases area damage. It seems like whether you're going for single target damage or AoE, this gun is going to have a lot of potential. And let's wrap things up nice and easy with tier 5. First there's Napalm Infused Rounds, which gives you bonus fire damage. It's always a lot of fun to play with fire, and this mod could work well with any build, so this one gets a win in my books. Then we've got Uncontrolled Decompression. This gives missiles a chance to stun bugs. Great for keeping the bugs at bay. It might be good for an aggressive build. And the last mod, Nitroglycerin Compound. Your missiles do increased damage the longer they stay in the air. This looks like it's good for a defensive build where you can afford to focus on your missiles for a while. Now with the mods out of the way, we can get to the most interesting part, or at least what I think is the most interesting part, the overclocks. Looking at the clean overclocks first, we have the Manual Guidance Cutoff. This makes it so that releasing the trigger cuts the guidance system for your missiles, and it also gives you a smaller movement penalty while shooting. An aggressive build could take advantage of the increased mobility and the ability to turn the focus away from your missiles. Next is Overtuned Feed Mechanism. This gives you a faster rate of fire and increased projectile speed. This looks like a great choice if you want to react quickly to swarms. Then there's Fragmentation Missiles. This gives you increased AoE and AoE damage. A nice complement to the AoE playstyle. Good if you're aiming for that build without the downsides of some of the other overclocks. Then we've got the Balanced Overclocks. First there's Plasma Burster Missiles. This gives missiles increased maneuverability and the ability to penetrate enemies. This decreases the damage and missile speed, however. This looks like a good choice for a defensive build, sitting back and hitting bugs with the same missiles over and over again. Then there's the Mine Layer system. This makes it so that your missiles plant a mine on impact with the terrain, but it decreases the total ammo and sacrifices missile guidance altogether. This seems like the type of overclock that completely flips how you use this gun on its head. It'll make an interesting build for sure. And finally we get to dip our toes into the unstable overclocks. First is Jet Fuel Homebrew. Really high direct missile damage and acceleration, but reduced explosion size, damage, as well as lower ammo count and magazine size. This looks like the go-to for single target damage. If you're going Dreadnought hunting, this may be the overclock for you. And let's bring this all to a close with the Salvo Module Overclock. This gives you the ability to fire up to 9 missiles at once and get bonus damage for each missile loaded, but the missiles cannot be guided. That's 2 overclocks now that sacrifice the ability to control the missiles for a cool new ability. In this case, it seems like an overclock that could have a lot of uses. Either AoE or single target damage will benefit from having this. Well, we finally got all the weapons details laid out on the table. Let's start working and figuring out some builds. So to kick things off, I thought of a pretty straightforward AoE build, starting with Tier 1C, Tier 2B, Tier 3A, Tier 4B, and Tier 5B, with the Fragmentation Missiles Clean Overclock. Of course, on the other hand, we have the single target damage build, which is Tier 1B, Tier 2A, Tier 3B, Tier 4A, and Tier 5B. Got a nice little zigzag going. And I think you could wrap this up with either the Jet Fuel Homebrew or Salvo Module Overclocks. Both are pretty good choices when it comes to damage. I know that those two builds are kind of basic, but it's honestly really hard to come up with ideas for this weapon without knowing how it actually works. I kinda need to get my hands on it to understand it a bit better. Like Gunner's other weapons, it has a focus on single target or AoE damage, as well as defensive or aggressive gameplay, but how the weapon actually works itself is really different. It's definitely going to take the community a bit of experimenting to figure out how this one's going to work. What I think is important to keep in mind when making builds for this gun is how it's going to help out your teammates. Gunner tends to take on a very supportive role, and I think it's important to keep that in mind. That's why for my final build, I went with Tier 1A, Tier 2A, Tier 3A, Tier 4A, and Tier 5C with the Plasma Burster Missiles Overclock. I focused this build on controlling your missiles and hitting the same bugs over and over again, so hopefully it works out, but I honestly can't say for sure until I get my hands on the gun. Now maybe you can see how this weapon works very clearly and I'm just missing the big picture. If so, please let me know down in the comments. Until then, we'll all be waiting for this weapon to come out together. Now if you'll excuse me, by the time this video is going to be out, I'm already one weapon behind and I'm going to have to start working on the next video, so I'll get right to that. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to catch that video. I'll see you then.